Hey Cal fans, in this video we're looking at Cal's offensive performance against the Washington State Cougars. We'll see that Washington State's secondary in particular had a lot of trouble defending the edge in the run game, and we'll see that the Bears were able to exploit this weakness, repeatedly yielding 3 of their touchdowns. For a more in-depth look at the offense as a whole, you can always check out the links at the end of this video. Before seeing how Cal was able to beat Washington State's edge defense, however, let's take a look at how the Cougar D is structured and at how it's supposed to work. Washington State runs a base nickel defense. This means that they're going to play with a 6-man front, and the function of these 6 defenders is basically just to outnumber the offense's 5 offensive linemen, shutting down the run and spilling the ball outside to their safeties and nickelback on the edges. We can see how that works on this play. On this play, Cal's trying to get the ball to cut back to the right side edge here up at the top of the screen. They know that WSU uses their 6 front defenders to outnumber the offensive line, and so they're trying to open up the edge by lining up with a tight end outside of this defensive end. The idea is that from this outside alignment, he can come down on that defensive end and seal him and the rest of the front off to the inside, and we can see him doing this successfully right here. This isn't a problem for the Cougars' defense, however, because as I said, they just need their 6 front defenders to outnumber the 5 offensive linemen. If anything gets outside of the offensive lineman or outside of that tight end, then they're going to compensate for that by adding secondary players into the run fit. So, if Cal's tight end does seal off this defensive end to the inside, Washington State still has a nickelback out here on the edge who can take away that outside gap. Now, of course, Cal knows that this is how Washington State's defense works, and so they're specifically trying to target it with this second tight end at the bottom of the screen. On this play, his job is to come across the formation from left to right, kicking out that nickelback on the edge. The idea is that if the first tight end can seal off his defensive end to the inside, and the second tight end can kick out the nickelback on the edge, then there should be a cutback lane in between them for the running back to hit. To defend this kind of blocking scheme, however, Washington State's also playing with a pretty aggressive technique from their safeties, and up here at the top of the screen we can see that they have a safety lined up in the box less than 9 yards from the line of scrimmage. As we roll the play forward, we can see him coming down to fill exactly that lane in between the blocks of the 2 tight ends. On that play, Washington State was able to shut down the lane, but on several other plays, Cal saw that the safety position in general was kind of a weak link, and they generated many of their points by attacking the execution of those players on the edge. Here, for example, we're looking at the Bears' first offensive play of the game. As we saw in the last play, the Cougars have their 6 front defenders, and we now know that they're using those guys to outnumber Cal's 5 offensive linemen. Cal's also motioned a wide receiver in tight to the formation at the top of the screen there, and as we saw with the tight end on the previous play, he's going to try to attack the edge by outflanking those 6 front defenders. Like on the last play, Wazoo's defense is then counteracting that extra blocker with their nickelback and their safety. As we roll the play forward, we can see that the Cougars are doing something a little bit different compared to the previous play. Instead of playing the nickelback on the edge and then asking the safety to fill the lane in between him and the left tackle, they're stunning the nickelback down inside, letting him take away the inside gap while the safety fills outside on the edge. As we continue through the play, we see that Wazoo's actually done a good job of defending this run. They've effectively closed out the middle of the formation, and they have an unblocked safety on the edge to take away anything to the outside. They're going to run into trouble, however, as that safety comes down to fulfill his run responsibilities. As we see here, he's going to take a horrible angle, and that's going to let Brown bounce outside of him for the long touchdown. As we can see on this play, Wazoo was in pretty good shape from an X's and O's standpoint, but poor execution by that safety made him a good target for the Bears to exploit. We can see a related issue on Cal's 3rd touchdown of the game. This time we're not looking at a run play, but the basic structure is similar to what we've seen previously. Once again, Wazoo has a 6-man front in the middle of the formation, and then in pass coverage, they have a cornerback and a safety playing outside on the edge. Those 2 defenders are basically manned up, and so the cornerback's going to be responsible for the tight end, and the safety's responsible for the running back. As we run this play forward, we see that again Washington State seems to be in great shape, with their safety having an unobstructed shot at that running back coming out of the backfield. On this play, however, he's going to miss the tackle for loss completely, letting Brown get free for another touchdown. Finally, let's look at Cal's last touchdown of the game. This comes on a 4th and 3, and so Wazoo's alignments and personnel are slightly different, but the idea is the same. On this play, as we've seen before, Cal's using this tight end at the top of the screen to try and outflank Wazoo's defensive front and create a lane around the edge. On this play, however, the Bears are doing something different by running this play as a zone read. The blocking scheme here is a zone run to the left, and Modster's going to read this backside-outside linebacker. If that guy sits wide outside of Cal's tight end here, then Modster will hand off to the running back, who should have an inside lane to take. If that guy comes down inside to take away the run, on the other hand, then Modster's going to pull the ball and keep it himself around the edge. The interesting thing here is that Wazoo's base defensive structure has an answer to this. As we've seen, they have this safety sitting outside of their entire front, and it'll be his job to defend anything that gets all the way to the outside. Cal's got a different way to cause problems for this scheme, though, and they're going to do this by pulling this tight end at the bottom of the screen across the formation. Instead of stopping to kick out an edge defender, as we've seen on some other plays, he's going to release all the way around the edge, and he's going to lead up to block that safety. That block is going to take away Washington State's defender on the edge, opening up a clear path for Modster to get all the way into the end zone to seal the game. Alright, that's it for this video. For a more in-depth look at Cal's offensive performance against Wazoo, check out patreon.com/Burke18, but otherwise I'll see you here next week for a look at Cal's game against USC. Until then, go Bears!